take someone down and we end up on the ground. My partner goes to stand up. Most of the time, most people who aren't trained in jiu-jitsu are just going to turn and look to face you, and most of the time you just strangle them unconscious. But the hands are going to be on the floor, and they're going to start building up to their feet. All right. From these positions, the first thing we're going to look to do is just focus on keeping his hands on the floor. All right. We don't want someone being able to just immediately, I'm here, my weight's on the floor, and then he just gets up and runs away from me, and now he's either running away from me, or he's fighting, or he's, moving for weapons, whatever the case is. So right from here, all we're going to do is we're going to have someone down on their hands and knees, and we're going to put, elbows and knees, and we're just going to put our partner's hips right between our knees in this position. Okay. We call this a cowboy ride. It's almost like a cowboy riding a horse. Now I don't want to be directly behind my partner, because if he brings his hips off the floor, I can fall forward. I want to be slightly off to a side in this position like so. Now, for jiu-jitsu, I'm looking at his elbow position. If his elbows are on the floor, it means he's content on staying down. The second I see his elbows come off the floor, his only intention from here is to get up. So my cue for what I'm going to do with as far as reactions, because there's a lot of things he can do from here. He can go with an inside leg stand up, go back. He can go inside leg, outside leg. He can go into a 4-point where his knees come up. He can go into a far side shoulder roll, near side shoulder roll. There's a bunch of different reactions that he has from here. All right, so the whole goal today is going to be to hold my partner down first, and then to put him in a position where he has a series of known reactions, where I know exactly what he has to do in order to get out. So my whole thing is going to be from taking him from this athletic position, up on his knees and elbows, to this unathletic position, down on his hip. Because now he's very athletic. So there's no explosivity standing up or going into a shoulder roll. Once we get in here, he only has the option to turn away from me and get back to turtle. He has the option to stay here, in which case we just flatten him out, which no one's going to do. No one will stay here. Or he has the option to turn towards me, and now we're in top side control, and we can pin the guy. All right. So what we want to do is we want to take him, and we want to constantly be trying to break him down to a hip, to take him from this athletic position into an unathletic position down on the hip, where you know exactly where he has to go, and you can't use explosive chain movements together where he goes to fake a stand up and then he grandies, he does all kinds of movements chained together. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just focus on how we can keep this guy down and put his hands and keep his hands on the floor and off of me. So the first thing we're going to do is just take two of our knees and just hug our partner's hips, the hips between the knees. Now, the second I see that elbows come off the floor, I know he's going to start to explode to his feet. So all we're going to do is just take two thigh pries by just touching the inside of our partner's thighs with our hands like so. Now we're going to take our chin and we're going to throw it over our partner's far shoulder and trap muscle. And now we're going to drive weight onto his hands. So when he explosively tries to get up, just walk. Communicate weight on his hands so that his hands can't come off the floor and move towards me. So we're just going to start with a very basic drill where he's down on his elbows and his knees. We have our two knees covering his hips, and they're slightly off to one side or the other. Now, right from here, we have two hands behind his elbows and shoulders. The second he goes to get up, we just put double thigh pry in place. Now we just use our toes to just start walking towards him. So when he goes to get his hands off the floor, his hands are just never going to be able to come off the ground. And we can keep people's hands on the floor off of us by keeping weight on him, not my weight on the floor. We always want weight on the guy. When he goes to reach for me or grab me or any other thing, we just put weight back on the hands. Okay? So just using a cowboy ride from turtle position, keeping his hands on the floor, just making sure his hands stay on the floor, not on us, and just get used to following a guy around from these positions. All right? Do that. 1, 2, 3. You won't be able to keep your partner's knees down. Right? The hands can always come up, but I don't care if the knees are off the floor, because the knees will be reaching for me. Once the hands come up, now the hands can be reaching for me and separating hands, things like that. Right? So from these positions, first you deal with the hands, then when your opponent feels like the hands are glued to the floor, the knees will always come up. And then once the knees come up, then they can start walking the hands back in, and then getting the hands off the floor. So once the knees come off the floor, now it's our job to return our partner's knees to the floor. And here's how we do that. So right from this position, as my partner goes to stand up, I'm not going to hang on him and explain this for a minute and just take my body weight off of him. But the whole thing is we want to get a high chest lock with a 10-finger grip. So what we want is a lock up high by our partner's chin and just our chin over our partner's far shoulder. When we do this, the full objective is to just sag my body weight off of my partner's body with my knee right in front of his thigh. So the second he goes to get up, I put the weight in the hand. Now he takes his knees off the floor and he goes into a 4-point in this position. The second I see this, we just lock everything up high. You can go with 10-finger grip, or you can go palm to palm, or you can go wrist to wrist, depending on how long your arms are relative to your partner's massive partner's body. And now from here, we just take our knee and we just place it right in our partner's knee. We take our second knee, we place it behind our partner's leg, and we just hang off our partner's body. When he goes to get up, he'll tell you that this feels absolutely impossible to take his hands off the floor. And now from here, we just do a locked hand spiral run, where we just jump the 2 knees in front of his shoulders. We just put him back on the floor here. Now, right from this position, we'll go into attack from here, or we're going to assume that he just gets up back to turtle position. Now we have to work. All right, we put him right to a hip, which is what we talked about before, right off this locked hand spiral. Now we return him to the floor. He doesn't have hands to touch me because I can always go in and control his hands. He can't really do anything with this hand as far as reaching and grabbing me. And he can't explode back up to his feet. All right, so we can keep the hands on the floor with double thigh pry, but we can't keep the knees on the floor. Because you can't keep the knees on the floor, you have to find a way to keep the hands on the floor and then return the knees to the floor with the mat return with a locked hand spiral. So right from here, we go in. As he goes to get up, we put the hands on the floor. Now he brings the knees up and we just move out into this position. We form a 2-on-1 on the leg, with one knee behind the hamstring and one knee in front of his thigh. Now we lock the hands up. When he goes to stand up, it's just not going to happen. He's carrying my body weight the whole time. And we just run and jump in front of the shoulders. We just sit this guy back down to the floor. And now from here we can go in and do good work. All right? So we bring the hands to the floor, he realizes, oh, my hands are stuck. Let me bring my knees up. And then once the knees are up, we keep weight on the hands so he can't walk the hands in. We start reaching for me and moving away. And we get a mat return, and we'll go from there. All right? 1, 2, 3.
Why are you doing
Push the hooks in, and then at the head rise, you use your strength with that. All right, which is most of the time what happens in fighting. Like you take someone down and they're like looking for you, and you just hop on their back and strangle. So now we're going to look at the difference between an open turtle and a closed turtle. All right, when I'm playing in this position in our sport, and now we're getting into a little bit more just sports jiu-jitsu stuff. Your partner doesn't want you to put hooks in, and your partner doesn't want you to be able to go underneath their neck or lock them back head on. So your partner can have 2 different turtle positions. They can have closed turtle positions like so. When you have the closed turtle position, it is incredibly hard for the offensive player to insert hooks or to insert hands to actually form a connection to you and actually score points or take you back, whatever the case is. Right? When you have an open turtle, like so, now it's much easier for the offensive guy to put hooks in and get underneath the neck and lock back head and arms and things like that. All right? The advantages of those 2 positions, from the offensive player's perspective, is that it's very easy for me to go in, either insert hook in an open turtle, like so, and the hook's in here, or in the closed turtle position, I can go in and I can start breaking my partner down to the hip. The basic idea is, if your partner's in a closed turtle, it will be much harder to insert hooks or insert back head and arm. Right? So the cons here are that I won't be able to actually get connection. But because the turtle is closed and the base of support is so narrow, it makes it easy now for me to break someone down to the hip. If from here, I try to break someone down to the hip, and he opens the turtle, he's open too. Now I can't break him down to the hip. Now because the turtle's open, it gives me the ability to go far side up. It gives me the ability to go near side up. It gives me the ability to go back head and arm and start rolling them through. So you have to play between these 2. But once you start breaking this down into open turtle versus closed turtle, it makes everything a lot easier. Right? So if he has a closed turtle, I won't be able to get hands in place all the time, I won't be able to put my hooks in. But you'll always be able to knock him to the hip. And this is the most common thing that he's going to get. If he's in an open turtle, he's not going to break him to a hip. Now his face support is too up. But from here, we can start going in and going into all of our attacks getting hooked in or whatever the case is. Right? So your job defensively is going to be to play between an open and closed turtle. My job offensively is to play a dilemma game between breaking you to a hit if the turtle is closed and throwing hooks in if the turtle is open. Right? So what we're going to look at in a situation like this is I'm trying to go in and insert my hand, put my hooks in, I'm threatening, and he closes the turtle up, and he's relatively close to the turtle. Whenever I see this, we just take that cowboy ride position, and now we just take a shallow tight waist in the partner's head. Now the whole thing is when I go to pull him down to his hip, I pull him back in this direction, away from his base of support. But even if he opens the knee a little bit, I'm not going directly out towards the knee, I'm coming back towards the hip. So you won't always be able to knock him to a hip. But if he just slightly opens the knee, we can still pull him back to his head. Right? So the first thing we're going to look to do is we see a closed turtle from here, and we can't get anything in place. Whenever I see this, we just post the hand on the floor, and then we just pull his hips right to where my right foot just was. Here. Now, right from this position, we're going to go in, and we're going to put a strong tight waist in. If at any point he turns towards me, we just have top side control. We're interested in the back, and he's usually interested in getting back up and start his scrambles. What we're going to do from here is we just put a strong tight waist in, and we just put our ear on our partner's back. Now understand, the only way that he can mechanically get up, if you have a strong tight waist, with your elbow controlling his hip, is by scissoring his leg. If you just have your hand that's just here and it's serving no function, he can just get up without moving his legs. Do this. Alright? But if I'm really putting weight on this guy, understand that the only possible way for him to return to turtle position, and it's scientifically impossible for him to get back to turtle position without scissoring his legs. He has to shoot his right leg away from me. He has to scissor his leg, and now it'll be labor to go ahead, but he can get up. Okay? If he tries to get up in any other fashion, if he tries to keep his right knee towards his chest and get up to it, there's just no way he can. He has to scissor the legs. I know this. And what is he doing when he scissors the legs? He opens the turtle on the side. So he was closed turtle, I broke him down to a hip, and in order for him to get back up, he has to open the turtle. So as he goes to open up that turtle on the near side, we're just going to go in and we switch to a far side thigh fly like we just had, same thing we were doing with stopping our partner's hands from coming up. As he goes to get up, we just slide our first hook in. And now we have one hook in place, we can cover our partner's hips, so we can go in and start to work from here. Okay? So right from here, he's down in a relatively closed turtle. When I see this, we have body weight in the guy. I know that if he goes to explosively get up and his elbows come up, no problem. We just keep his hands down, and then we either throw hooks in or follow it. But from here, he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. He stays down. Whenever I see this, we just post the hand, we just pull them down to the floor. And now we put in a strong tightness, and we just put our ear in our partner's back. Now the whole thing is I want to try to pull my left elbow to my left hip and really put weight over his head. So when he goes to get up, he has to scissor the legs, and now it's labor, and as he comes up, I put my first hook in, then he opens the turtle on the near side, and now we can go to all of our breakdowns and attacks right from here. Right? We break the guy down from a closed turtle, we force him to open the turtle. So as we pull him, he goes to get back up, he doesn't want to end up here, flatten down, and as he gets up, our first hook comes in, and now we can go to work, start from there. Alright? Give that shot, 1, 2, 3. First, let's look at how we can break our partner down to a completely unathletic position, where instead of their knees and elbows are on the floor, they're facing belly up towards the ceiling, and we have 2 hooks in on their back. Alright, what we're going to look to do is a power half Nelson. Alright, so I'm going to explain the power half Nelson because the grip can kind of be confusing. Alright, we're not going to focus, there's different grips we can use with our hands, but the main thing is I'm going to be looking to have you guys put the power half in on the right side and make it effective. understand the purpose of the power half, or any back control, is to have diagonal control, okay? So what we want is to have control of one of his hips, which we do through our hook, and then the opposite shoulder, which we do through the power half, okay? So we can control our partner's full body by having control over one of his hips and the opposite side shoulder, right? If I only have control, for example, of his right hip and his right shoulder, there's no reason why he can't just explosively turn away from me and move away. But the second I get control over his right hip and his left shoulder, when he goes to explode away from me, I have control of his entire body, even though I only have control of one of his hips and one of his shoulders. If you only have control of one of the hips and one of the shoulders, they need to be opposite sides. You cannot control the full body unless you go opposite sides. You can't do it with right and right. Because here, I can leave them easily, right? So the function of the power half is to give me that diagonal control that we love so much. So right from here, we go in, and all we're going to do, once we have our first hook in, we break them down to the hip, we bring our first hook in, we take our left hand and we just place it underneath our partner's far shoulder. So if our right hook is in, we have to control the left shoulder. If the left hook is in, we have to control the right shoulder. So we have the right hook in, we must control the left shoulder. All we're going to do is take our left hand underneath our partner's far shoulder, and then we're just going to touch the back of our partner's head, palm up, with our right hand here. Okay, now we can go in here, we can go in here. The grip is not so important right now. All we need is to have a power half and have this grip in place. Right? What this does is it controls the longest lever of the human spine, which is the top of the head. So even now, if he tries to explode up to his feet, he just won't be able to do it because the head won't be able to rise. Right from this position, the whole thing is I'm going to lean out to my right and look to crunch his chin to his left shoulder. So if I'm controlling his left shoulder with my upper body, I take his chin and I just touch his chin to his left shoulder. So that now from here, when he tries to move, tries to fight me, we just continue sagging until we fall down into this position here. Okay? Once we're in this position, he can't explode away from me. You know that because we control the shoulder. The only thing he can do now is he can take his shoulder out to the floor and move out and away. So the second we move into this position and we break him down all the way to a situation where he's just not going to explode up and away from us, now we have to cover typical Jitsu escapes of him bringing his shoulders out. So the second we get here, we put a wedge over his shoulder by switching to a back head and arm. So now the elbows control his left shoulder. So when he goes to explode away, he can't. And because I have a wedge over his shoulder with my right elbow, when he goes to move his shoulders to the floor, he also can't do that. And now from here, we can go in, we can insert the first hook. Now we can look to go into our attacks from the back. Or our second hook, rather. Right, so right from here, we go in, we do the whole thing, whether you want to start by breaking them down, putting the hook in, or whether you want to start, go ahead and get up, or whether you want to start with the hook in, that's fine. Right from this position, the second we get our first hook in, we're just going to touch underneath his far shoulder, we're going to touch the top of his head, looking at your own hand. Now right from here, we just lock our hands together. And now the whole goal is to take his chin and just crunch it to his shoulder, and then just lean my body weight out and over to the side. Now, he can't move away from me. The only thing he can do is bring his shoulders to the floor. So the second we break him down, it's imperative that we switch to putting a wedge over his shoulder, taking our hands into a lock position, and then just touching our elbows the best we can together, bringing my elbows together like so. So when he tries to explode away, his shoulder is completely controlled, his left shoulder. His right shoulder is controlled through my right elbow. So when he goes to bring his right shoulder to the floor and move out and away, he can't do that. When he tries to bring his hips to the floor, his hips are controlled. He can't bring his hips out, and he can't explode away from me because I can always control the top hip. When he tries to either explode back up or bring his hips and shoulders out to the floor, there's just nowhere he can go. And now we can always work to insert that second hook and then go into our attacks from here. Okay? So breaking a guy down from turtle position with the power half, and then getting to our second hook and going into attacks. 1, 2, 3. After that, what I like to do with my seminars, and for any of you who have been to any of my seminars, it's supposed to end at 1 o'clock. It usually would end at like 3:30 with the questions and answers and pictures and everything. But because of the flights, I have to be out of here by 1. But what I wanted to do is I want to give like the opportunity for you guys to go in and ask some questions about anything you didn't get to see today. Like maybe you guys came in and you're like, man, I really had a question about Kimura or heel hooks or whatever the case is. So I want to answer as many of those questions as I can before we have to finish up and take a group picture. Not because I care about you guys, but because I just don't want to go on Reddit in 2 weeks and have you guys be like, I went to the Ryan seminar. So we're gonna do this, and then we're gonna go some questions and answers, and then we'll finish up and take a group picture. All right. So once we have our partners back, underhook, understand that there are underhook and overhook sides. Okay, just sit in the butt. Now, even when I started training, and even now, these positions are referred to either the weak side or the strong side, right? The overhook side is considered the strong side, and the underhook side is considered the weak side, all right? Why is this? When I fall to a given side of my partner, like so, the overhook side is considered the strong side because you have a wedge on top of your partner's shoulder, which means that when he goes to bring his shoulders out to the floor, the right elbow will stop him from bringing the shoulders out to the floor, okay? The underhook side is considered the weak side because now there's no wedge above my partner's shoulder. So from here, we can bring his shoulders out to the floor and he can easily see it, right? But we need to stop thinking in this way. Understand we have the underhook and the overhook side, not the strong side and the weak side. The wedge over my partner's shoulder on the overhook side, the right elbow, can be easily replaced with his head position on the underhook side. So if I just take my head next to his head and I put my chin on his shoulder, when he goes to bring his shoulders out the floor now, he won't be able to do so. And we can look effectively from underhook and overhook side, you know, in both of these ways. Now, I could teach for hours and hours and hours on attacking from the underhook and the overhook side, but when we fall from the power half Nelson, we fall on the overhook side on our partner. So we're going to be working from some attacks on the overhook side. Right? Understand the first thing we have to do is deal with my partner's defensive hand. My partner is going to have two hands in place. He's going to have his primary hand and his secondary hand. Okay? The primary hand will have a thumb inside of my wrist, and will do all of the work of stopping both my wrist and my elbow from punching across and getting into a strangling position. If you take his primary hand off and the secondary hand comes in, it will stop my wrist from coming across, but it won't stop my elbow from shooting across the body. So the primary hand will do all of the work, stopping the strangle, and the secondary hand will do some of the work, but it's not as reliable as the primary hand. So the main thing we're going to have to do is find a way to break my partner's grips off. Okay? Now, the first thing we're going to do from here is he has his hands in place. Right? So he has two hands in here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our partner's wrist and we're just going to roll our palm towards us. And we're just going to take our hand and we just roll the palm towards us. This makes it relatively easy to strip my partner's grip off. Now, that secondary hand will stop my wrist from coming up. So if I just try to bicep curl and bring my wrist up, it won't work. If I take my elbow and I punch it across, we'll be able to go in and lock everything up. Now, right from here, we go through, we take our hand and we just place it over our own hand. We never do this. This is from 1990s. We're not 1990s anymore. My partner will grab it 2-on-1, he'll pass it over the head. He'll pass it over the head and then he'll be out. But instead, we just go hand over hand. Now, we just open up the hand and we just shoot everything behind. Now we can go in and get strong finishes. Because the first thing we do is just deal with the basic grip fight to get our strangle in place. So we're going to have his back. We're going to be on the overhook side. It's important that we're on the overhook side. So we fall to the side that my elbow is over my partner's shoulder. Okay? From here, he has two hands in place. One, he has his thumb inside, and then he has his hand over my wrist. All we're going to do is we're going to turn our palm towards our partner's chest, and we're just going to strip his grip off. Now we're going to shoot that elbow across, and we're just going to touch our partner's back with our right hand here. And then we cover our chin with our hand with our own chin. If he tries to reach my hand with this arm, with his hand, it's going to be difficult. Now from here, we replace our chin with our hand. We go hand over hand. And then we punch everything in. Our fingertips meet our biceps. And now we can go into strong finishes with our rear naked. So if he falls to the overhook side, he has his hands in place. We deal with that annoying primary defensive hand. We turn the hand towards us and we strip the grip off. Now his secondary hand will stop my wrist from going up, but it won't stop my elbow from coming across. Now from here, we cover the hand with the chin, we cover the hand with the hand, we punch everything across, and now we're in, ready to go in for our finish. So just some basic grip fighting from the back, from the overhook side, get our strangle in place. All right, 1, 2, 3. What we do from here, X, Y, Z, next person, X, Y, Z, and then we kind of just go from person to person through the answer as many as possible. Right now, we're going to look at a way to trap our partner's hand from the back when I feel like the secondary hand is giving me a lot of issues. Right, whenever I see that from this position, I strip my partner's primary hand, and I go to start taking my hand up. And I feel like he does such a good job with the secondary hand that he pulls over my hand now. So now, because he's covering my hand and not my wrist, it's such a hard thing to bring to that secondary hand sometimes. Whenever I see this, what we're going to do is I take my left hand and I just punch my partner's hand down like this. Right? Now, it's absolutely crucial when I do this that my knee is higher than the height of my partner's elbow. So if you take a line and draw it straight out across the body from my partner's elbow, my knee needs to be higher than my partner's elbow. Because of the fact that I need to trap the top part of my partner's arm. If I'm lower than the elbow, from here, he just brings his elbow out. I control the bottom of the arm, but not the top of the arm. The most important thing of this move is that I control the top part of the arm with my knee is above the elbow. Okay? So I just punch my partner's hand down, I bring my knee high over the elbow, and then I just bring my heel over the wrist. Now, right from here, we just cross our two ankles, and we bring our knees together and our heels to our butt. Now, the problem here is that I trap my own arm in position. So if we both try to pull our arms out, they're both stuck. If I loosen my arm and he goes to pull his arm out, then both of our arms come out. So the trick I do here is I take my thumb and I turn it down towards the floor. All right? When I turn my thumb down towards the floor, and he goes to pull his arm out, and I'm going to pull my arm out, only my arm comes out, and now his arm stays in. And now when he goes to bring his arm free, it's going to be a difficult thing. Now, he still has that annoying secondary hand. But I now have a free hand. So right from here, I just take a cross wrist grip and I just strip his hand up. Now I just punch my hand up nice and high. We can go hand over hand, we can punch in, and we can go into our strangles with our partner's hand trap. If he has his two hands in place, right from here, we just go in and we strip that grip off, however it may be. Now I go to start strangling him, but I feel like I just can't get past that annoying secondary hand. Right? The problem is now, is that if I go to use a cross wrist and strip this grip off, now his primary hand just reinserts, and now his primary hand's back in place. So I can only address the secondary hand if I trap the primary hand first. So right from here, we have that secondary hand in place, we just push everything down like so. Now from here, as we both go to clear the arms, it's a pretty easy thing for me to get my arm free and leave his arm in there trapped. When he goes to bring the arm free now, it's going to be hard because I'm above the elbow. And now all we have to do is go in, we just take a cross wrist grip, and we just strip our partner's hand up. Now when he goes to stop my hand from getting up, I have to control both of his arms. So now we just bring that elbow across, we lock everything up. And now right from here we go hand over hand, we punch everything into place, and we can control our partner for the way. Right? So the whole thing now is, the secondary hand is giving me so much trouble that we deal with the primary hand first, so we use our legs versus his arm, and now we can use our hand which was occupied with the primary hand to control the secondary hand, strip everything off, and now we can go into place and go in for our finishes. Alright, so this time trapping an arm from the overhead side, then we'll go with some Q&A after that, and then take a group picture, and I'll leave you guys alone. Alright, 1, 2, 3.